Should be good.
All right. We are live. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome. It's Whiskey Wednesday. Spirits Guy coming to you guys live from the WB out here, Wachusett Wine and Spirits. I want to start off, first of all, by thanking everybody who was here, not here in the building, but watching online last night. Great conversation with Jeff Duckhorn from Redwood Empire. I couldn't believe we talked for like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And I put a lot of effort into it. I kind of scripted out all my questions. I formulated how I wanted that dialogue to go. I'm looking, I'm like, I don't know if I've got enough here to get a half an hour. And then I looked and I was like, Jesus.
Should probably end that.
He told me we had an hour. And
Yeah.
we were at an hour at that point.
He seems like such like a down-to-earth cool dude.
He's awesome. I mean, Redwood is a brand that we love, and I get to meet Derek, the owner, probably a year ago now, and that, kind of made it a deeper relationship. And then getting to meet Jeff 6 months ago, and then talking to him again yesterday, especially after the technical difficulties we had the week before trying to get that whole thing set up.
Yeah, I'd say this went a little bit smoother.
Yeah, and he was gracious to come back and give it another shot. And the beginning of the video is funny with me kind of sweating and hoping that it connected, and then him trying to figure out the audio on his end. But yeah, it all worked out. It was great. If you guys didn't see it, it's on our Facebook page. It's also on the Wachusett Wine and Spirits YouTube page. It's also on Spirits Guide Facebook page as well.
And he's so young, I feel he looks
Yeah,
so
I
young.
want to say he's like 40 something.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
young.
living that Cali lifestyle too.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure,
he's not hurting out there. He's
He's
got Meyer lemon trees growing in his backyard.
Yeah.
What a great story. And I'm looking forward to like single malts coming from them. He mentioned that they have brandy laying down, apple brandy laying down. They're doing all kinds of cool stuff. So much fun there. Again, just thank you guys for being there last night. And Jeff, thanks everybody for the support as well. How you doing? I feel like this is like our one chance a week to kind of catch up.
I'm good. Busy week. Very tired, but can't toss up this opportunity.
No, we're professionals. We keep things going.
Have to.
NFL just keeps getting weirder and weirder every week.
Bailey Zappi, the future.
Who knows? Like,
He didn't look bad, but I mean, it is the Lions, but our defense is insane.
yeah, and maybe Bailey and then Cooper Rush down in Dallas,
right?
and
Future Super Bowl.
Dak and Mac will be out looking for jobs.
Flipping burgers.
Yeah, maybe it's one of them can end up in Seattle and fix whatever's going on up there.
Oh my gosh. Other than that, nothing. I'm going to Encore tomorrow for a Ron Zacapa tasting.
Nice.
Pretty hyped up about that.
Nice. Those are great rums. Netflix. Have you watched The Redeem Team yet?
I just started. I fell asleep immediately. I was wicked late at night.
Man.
I've heard it. You liked it?
I got 10 minutes in. I'm like, Corey is gonna love this. Like, it's the whole thing with Kobe. Because he wasn't part of like the original team when they started building it.
Yeah, screw it, I'm joining that.
Yeah, like 2 years in, and he was rebuilding his image, and like the way he came together with LeBron, who was starting to become the best.
Yeah.
Kobe was already the best, and how they worked together. But the greatest that they played the preliminary game when they finally get to the Olympics, and Kobe comes in and he says, "I'm gonna run through Pau Gasol."
I've seen
And LeBron is like, what?
Yeah, whatever.
What?
Yeah.
And then they cut to D-Wade, and he's like, yeah, no, he told me. I know what they're going to run. I'm running right through Powell. And then they're interviewing Powell, and he's like, yeah, first play, he just put his forearm right through my chest.
Yeah.
And literally the first play, Powell comes around, and Kobe just barrels right across the court.
Yeah.
Buries him.
Yeah, I've seen that clip before, and it's crazy. Powell's like helping raise his children now. It's insane. It just goes to show how much of a competitor Kobe was.
Yeah, but it was cool because Powell was like, no, he let it be known. We're brothers, we're teammates. Not today.
Yeah, in between the lines.
Where, he was there to win. So, it was an awesome awesome doc, and it's wild to see Kobe like he's still alive.
I know, it's crazy. Like, I
There's a
saw
lot
that
of
first
interview
scene,
footage
yeah.
with him, and it's
And even like young LeBron, like I saw like that very first when him and Kobe sat down right next to each other, and it's just like seeing LeBron before he was
with
LeBron.
no beard.
Yeah, it's baby Ron pretty much.
Less hair here,
Yeah.
more hair
I
here.
know. A lot, but there was something.
Yeah, and I mean D Wade, and you think of that team like Carmelo, Carlos Boozer, like that team was stacked.
Yeah,
Jason Kidd,
it was unreal.
Dwight Howard, I mean they were beasts, but it's such a great journey to see them. And Krzyzewski was, you see him in a kind of a different light too, of the way he kind of brought that team together and his sort of military background. Just a ton of fun watching that. I'm not going to wait anymore. We're going to get right into this. I'll let Mark tell the story when he gets here, and if he gets caught up in traffic, we'll pivot.
There he is.
There he is now.
Worst guest of the year showing up late.
No,
No
are you
worries,
kidding?
man. No worries.
You're walking in with a box?
Yeah. You want me back there?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'll let you slide in.
All right, gentlemen.
How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Corey.
Hey, Mark.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Get you a glass if you are so inclined.
Yeah, absolutely. I got some extra stuff here too for us. Too, so
Awesome. So, you're here. Let's do it. Story.
Yeah. Well, thanks, and apologies to everybody who's watching right now. I don't make a habit of being late, and I really apologize for wasting your time.
Anybody local understands what the traffic is like.
Yeah,
out
2
here.
hours, almost 2 hours from Charlestown. So,
Wow.
at any rate, glad to be here. Really appreciate it. And as for the story, I'm one of the founders of Old Line Spirits down in Baltimore. We are, please, thanks so much.
After all that time
After
in
all that
traffic.
time in the car, I absolutely need this. And we are we're a distillery in Baltimore focusing on American Single Malt whiskey, as you guys know. And our approach to this, well, before I get into the story, our approach to what's in the glass is making a single malt whiskey for the bourbon drinker. Doesn't mean we're trying to be a bourbon, doesn't mean we're trying to be a scotch. We're trying to be something right in between that takes what we find to be the most compelling for us, the most compelling elements of a single malt whiskey, single malt scotch, and the most compelling elements of bourbon. So what we're about to sip here now is all non-peated malt, and it's aged in number 4 char virgin oak. So for those of you who, when you hear American Single Malt, may have a hard time imagining kind of what's in the bottle. First of all, it can vary because there's a lot of us doing lots of different things. But for the old line approach, I think the simplest way to put it is bourbon on the nose, and then a little more of that rich malt that carries through in the palate. So the vanillas, the caramels, the baking spices on the nose, and I think the toffee and biscuit and kind of dark chocolate come through a little more in the palate. So that's what we're doing as far as concept. As far as how we got into this, it's really almost by accident. Well, not the whiskey thing. My buddy and I were Navy buddies. We used to fly together. We were goose, if you will, backseat guys in jets. Did that for about 10 years, loved it, got out, got civilian jobs that we didn't really care for. Decided that it wasn't scratching the itch, so we decided to start a distillery. And what we ended up doing is quitting our jobs to start a bourbon and or rye distillery, because bourbon's bourbon, rye, rye's great in Maryland, is a big rye state historically. And what happened to us was about 4 or 5 days after we quit our jobs, I was at a distilling conference, and I met a guy who was looking to sell his business. So he was a Vietnam vet, and his Bob Stilnovich, his business partner Jim Caudill, was also a Vietnam vet, one Navy, one Army. Arch and I are Iraq, Afghanistan guys, so we just hit it off. They were looking to sell their business because Jim, one of the two, was terminally ill. So what had been a fun kind of retirement hobby now became this kind of chore for Bob, who was the only guy helping out to do it. They were looking to pass the torch. We fell in love with the whiskey they were making, which was an American Single Malt, and just really haven't looked back.
So their distillery was Pacific Northwest?
About 90 minutes north of Seattle, exactly, yep. And then we went out there. Arch, my business partner who runs ops, he was out there maybe 3-4 months. I was out there for maybe a month and a half or two. Living in the guest house, making whiskey every day from 5 till God knows when, and eventually packed that all up into a U-Haul. Drove across country. The barrels got shipped, intermodal, and then now we're in Baltimore in about 25,000 square feet.
And the whiskey's being made in Cincinnati still?
So it's made in. So we have 2 production. So Baltimore, we have a 300-gallon still. We're doing specialty stuff like our peated, which won't be out for a while. bottled in bond, things like that are a lower production run. We do on the smaller still in Baltimore, and we do all of our aging and our processing in Baltimore. But we do produce, to your point, in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
With Middle West Spirits. They're a great distillery that they've been enormously helpful to us as we take what Bob and Jim gave us and try to do our best to even make it better.
Yeah, I did some research, and it was funny because we met briefly.
5-6 weeks ago, was it?
Yeah, for like 5 minutes right before we were going on air. You left the samples, and I do a separate podcast that's mine for products that we don't carry.
Oh, nice.
Here, so it also allows me to use bad words and talk about other things
That's
as well.
not okay here.
Yeah. And so I took those 2 samples with my friend Peter, and we actually tasted them. We did a whole podcast
Oh, nice.
on those samples.
Oh, I'll check that out. Yeah.
So we had done a little deep dive, so I knew a little bit about the history and how fascinating it was, and that sort of journey from the Pacific Northwest down to...
It's a way. I never could have guessed how that would work out. And it's funny. One of our board members, who's a friend, this guy Richard Wolf. Originally, when we first had the opportunity to buy this distillery, it didn't kind of fit the paradigm I had in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start from completely from scratch, and this basically was from scratch. It was such a small place, but I was a little concerned that, like, hey, maybe are people gonna be turned off by the fact that we didn't kind of do this every brick bit by bit on our own, and we're jumping on where somebody else left off. And he almost like shook me by the shoulders, like, dude, this story's gold, Like,
Yeah,
the
seriously.
story's gold, the juice is gold. Like, you just jump on this and let it ride.
Yeah. Cheers.
So how was it received in Baltimore?
Great.
Which is,
Yeah,
like
it's-
you said, the rye country.
It is. So it's received very well. We still get asked a lot how much rye is in the Nashville, even though it's, as you guys know, 100% malted barley. So I think there's still that, people who aren't necessarily whiskey aficionados don't quite grasp that this is just something completely different. But it's getting better as the American Single Malt whiskey category is like on the 1 yard line to being officially recognized. But no, it's good. The big challenge we had in the first couple of years, and these guys are actually really good friends of ours with Sagamore Spirit, great whiskey, great people. We love those guys. We're good friends with them. But just as circumstance would have it, we rolled out our whiskeys in the same week. So they have, they're a bigger name. So that was a challenge through no fault of their own. Just 2 ships and different courses, and so that was a challenge. And we'd go into a lot of events, and people would say, "Oh, you're the guys, the Under Armour guys." Like, no, that's Sagamore. This is different. But it's been a good reception. Good reception up here, New York, New Jersey. We're in Colorado, which is a little harder to support because I can be up here in an hour.
Yeah.
Which is great.
All right. Strike some whiskey.
This is just so approachable, I think.
I love it, and I love the description too, like the single malt for the bourbon drinker. It's got that kind of body. The thing I love the most is the price point,
Thank you.
because I've been fighting the American Single Malt war for the last 2-3 years. I became friendly with Amanda down in Virginia, and it's a challenge on the shelf. Admittedly, if we lean into it, customers don't get that barley costs more than corn, and there are all these other things that drive the price point up. And there's a lot of challenges with American Single Malt. Anyways, we kind of talked about it a few weeks ago. But people think single malt, they think Scotch, they think smoke,
100%.
and that kind of scares them off. Or they go like, oh, it's American, so it's a bourbon. No, it's single malt.
Yeah.
So what is it? It's single malt, and so I've been fighting that fight of like, this is what the original settlers who came to this country knew how to make.
Agreed.
They weren't making bourbon because there was no corn even in the Northeast.
Agreed.
Until the Whiskey Rebellion. So like this is actually the original
You could
style,
argue. Yeah.
But I think part of the issue is the price points there hasn't been an accessible entry point into the category.
And I thank you for saying that. That's what we're trying to do, deliberately, because we realize that, well, at least as we feel, our earliest adopter on average is a bourbon drinker versus a Scotch drinker. Not that Scotch drinkers don't love it, but that's on average the person reaching for it first is a bourbon drinker. So we want to price it A, where that person is used to spending and shopping, it's comfortable, and B, we want to be at the low end of the category as far high end on quality, low end on price, because to make it accessible. And we know that once people try the white label at $39.99, wherever you have it.
Yeah, that's what.
And then once we put out finishes, actually I brought an Oloroso for us to try. Those come in higher, but like but once people know the brand is good, they don't mind spending $65.
No.
But for us, we take a hit to our margins deliberately on this stuff to make it accessible, knowing that people will then move up in the portfolio if they want to. Yeah.
What's with the name Old Line?
So this is one thing that even in Maryland, I'd say a lot of people don't know, and outside of Maryland, almost nobody knows it. Old Line is the state nickname of Maryland, and it refers to actually the Battle of Brooklyn in 1777. You think I know this by now, but Washington had the army in what is now Brooklyn/Long Island. The British were basically landing, saw weakness in his position, and were going to rout the army. Washington realized that and started to evacuate across the East River. But recognizing this, he needed to hold off the Brits long enough to save the army. So Maryland happened to have a unit that was well trained and well equipped and in a good spot. So he used them to hold off the British long enough, and most of them were killed or captured. But because they held the line and they were from Maryland, he called them his Old Line. And when statehood came, they adopted that name. So we love it because it's a nod to Maryland, where we're based. But it also just sounds like a cool whiskey name. And
I love that.
Yeah. Military, connection too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And on that note, the Bravo Zulu in the back.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's hard to see probably in the camera, but the flags in the front, and then the Bravo Zulu in the back. The flags are the B and the Z Bravo Zulu flags. Anybody who's Navy or Marine Corps or Coast Guard watching will recognize that. That is a term for well done. So if you were to get, hey, big Bravo Zulu to Corey, it's a way of saying like, hey, attaboy. So we put that on there as kind of an Easter egg to our consumers who know it.
That's awesome. I like that a lot.
Yeah, we talk all the time about packaging with a purpose, and
Sure.
We do like a 3-tier rating system. Like, is it good? Is it worth the money? And does the bottle start a conversation if it's on your bar?
Fair.
Because for us, that's what this is all about, is these moments of like, it's not drinking to get drunk, it's having conversation and bringing people
I couldn't agree
together.
more.
So we like things that start a conversation, or when people go like, what does that mean?
Agreed.
I love that.
And to your point, like our brand is built around the concept of bold stories, and because our story is naval aviation, quitting our jobs and all that, but that's a very narrow story. So we want like that brand, those waves in the front, to really evoke a sense of adventure and excitement to anybody. Anybody can look at that, no matter where they're in the world, where they live, what they do, how old they are, they can see that and probably get the energy we're trying to put out. So bold stories, we love the idea of, whether it's about the Navy, whether it's about mountain biking, whether it's about whatever it is, whatever scratches their itch, that they can sit there and have a bottle and talk about whatever that is.
And it's cool because it's almost minimalist in the label, but it says so much
We tried
at
to
the
keep
same
it,
time.
We wanted it to stand out both on your shelf and behind the bar, in that it's not busy, so we wanted it to stand out for its simplicity.
And the color. The color on that whiskey.
Number 4 char.
It's fantastic.
That's a 30-gallon barrel right there, and I think I may have mentioned before, we're rolling out our 53 gallons, which have been upwards of 6 years old now. So we're going to do a blend of 4 to 6-year-old on that. Next time I come up, I'll bring you a sample of it so you can taste it. That'll be a touch lighter, but still pretty dark, just because the 53s, obviously give off a little less color.
Yep.
Can I reach in the bag here?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, do you want to do cast strength, and then we'll go into the...
Yeah, I mean, however you think.
I think cast strength next, and then the finishes will be
Okay.
great. Oh, and keep me honest on time. I don't want to talk your ear off, but you guys are doing something.
We no limits. We
Nice.
Nothing going on.
Nothing going on.
This is my Wednesday night.
Pay my parking tab, man. So this is a barrel strength, and for us, our barrel entry proof has always been 120, which is most things we do. We can point to reasons A, B, C, and D while we do it. Why you mash in at certain temperatures, profiles, all that sort of thing. This one is as simple as Bob and Jim use 120, and we have seen no reason to switch. So it's don't mess with what works, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So right now, what was happening, interestingly, on the West Coast when we were apprenticing out there and emptying barrels, they were coming out about a 111 to 113 because of the damp air out there. So the air was whipping out more ethanol than water. Here, it's much more like East Coast, much more like Kentucky. So the proof's going out. So we're going in at 120, coming out around 124, 125.
Wow, nice.
This is 124.6 actually, this batch. And I personally think it drinks lower than that. And this with a little water or a small ice cube, it opens right up. It's wonderful.
So In the new single malt guidelines, is there a rule on barrel entry?
Yes, I believe. So I should know off the top of my head, but I think it's 125 like bourbon. So I know it can't be distilled above 165 like a bourbon, and I think it's a max 125. Now it can be new or used oak. That's one thing that we have flexibility on. Up to 700 liters in size for the barrel, and no minimum age like bourbon or rye.
It's the other thing I like about single malts is bourbon is that's it. It's new charred American oak. Whereas single malt, you've got the freedom to play with port woods, sherry woods,
Everything. Yeah.
rum casks, whatever.
It's we find that very appealing to us, and one thing that and I absolutely love bourbon and everything that bourbon can do, and rye. One thing that malt gives us, as far as not only with the different different barrels we're used, is one big thing we can do, but also, I mean, as you guys know, the way that barley's malted at the malt house, whether it's a deep kiln malt where it's like dark and rich and you taste it, it tastes like raisin bran flake before you malt or before you mash, or a pale malt tastes more like grape nut cereal. All these things. Well, that's the same grain, just processed differently. So even before we get the grain, when we order the different types of grain we want, there's a very wide range of flavor profiles that we can target. And then after that, to your point, new used oak, and we just have a much bigger palette of flavors that we can work with. And that makes sense if you're a bourbon producer, or in Scotland if you're a Scotch producer. In my mind, you've got these categories that are just so established and so proud and venerable in a good way. Like they've built something for hundreds and hundreds of years. They don't want a knucklehead like me coming in, doing something weird, calling it a bourbon, and then hurting the category.
Right.
Well, we're so new, we want more entrants. So we're at the point where we're trying to build this thing up, and so as long as we can keep it within the guardrails of not being too wacky, a lot of things are fair game in American Single Malt.
It's even like darker than the other one. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's also amazing that I try to tell people you're not supposed to actually smell through your nose. You get your nose in there and breathe through your mouth.
Yeah,
But I can get my nose in there, and there's no ethanol coming out of that glass at all.
I think it drinks like a 110 and it's a 124, 125. An example I used earlier, and this is a wonderful whiskey, is Weller 107. I think Weller 107 is a great whiskey. It's a hot whiskey, and that's not bad. But I noticed that 107 drinks hotter than our 124. It's what it's supposed to do. It's what they want.
Yep.
But this one just drinks so easy.
All right. That's spot on.
It's
so thick on them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right
The
there.
sauce, yeah. It's funny. It depends who you ask. I personally find the mouthfeel to feel richer in the 86, but it's 50-50. Some people feel that this
Well,
one.
they're very similar.
Yeah.
I would say.
I feel like the alcohol balances that a little bit more.
Cuts it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the rich flavors are there, but the alcohol kind of
Mellows it.
mellows it out a little bit. So it's got a great balance
Thank you.
of sort of alcohol and flavor.
One thing I think that as I bring up the samples of the 53s for you guys to try next time I'm up, so you can kind of get a sneak peek. One thing that is with the 53s we're seeing is that because these are so by design oak forward, and the 30-gallon barrels give you so much vanilla, so much caramel, so much bacon spice, those get backed off a tiny bit in the bigger barrels, and you can start to see more of the stone fruit from the malts. So it's in there, it's just a little bit outshouted by the vanilla and caramel, which is great. But I think you're going to see a really interesting evolution as we go to the next barrel.
Yeah, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, those are fantastic. All right.
Well, I don't want to drive the show here because this is your
No.
radio. Okay.
Oh, I was looking forward to this. I was going to let you drive the show. 1 week, I don't have to do all the
You're in
talking.
charge all day, right?
Yeah, I don't have to do all the talking this week.
All right. Well, I'll take full advantage here. So I got two things here that we can try. So it's our Oloroso Sherry finish. We're actually shipping up some cases. Actually, we already shipped to Massachusetts.
Okay.
So this will be out. excuse me, about 40 cases to the state. 20 cases to the state. Obviously, if you guys want it,
$6.
done. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. We'd love to get it to you if you want it. So it's the same. These two are both the same flagship malt that we is our backbone, and this one's finished for, I'll tell you right now, a little over a year in used Oloroso sherry, and then also have a Madeira, which won't be up here for a while, but it's a good one. If I wanted to bring it up, this is actually a barrel pick, so it'll be a barrel proof. This was 4 years in virgin, 8 months in Madeira. So I think we go to the Olo. It's going to be kind of up and down in proof here, but I think we go to the Olo next. And then one thing to show you guys, I'll hand you the bottle in a sec, is we kind of realized that all that flowery language that people write, including us, on the back of their bottles that, people don't really care about necessarily. So we've been trying to just put information on there. Excuse me. Put information on there that's relevant. So it'll be hard to see on the camera, but you can see what we're looking at is the back of the label has, hey, this type of barrel for this long, entry proof, exit proof, finishing barrel. And that way, and both for you guys, if people have a question, just pick it up and look.
Yep.
And it's just being transparent in what we do. And
I feel like that's the best thing a distillery can do.
I love that. And customers love it too.
And it's easy for us, thinking about all these words here. We probably spent, I bet Arch and I spent 5 to 6 man hours on words that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and this, man hours wise, this is about 0.25.
You don't have to do anything.
People enjoy it.
Just facts.
And for the flagship product, since it's just one barrel, we're probably gonna put a flavor wheel on that. Now, knowing that real whiskey aficionados they're gonna determine their own flavor profile that they taste. But what we want is somebody to pick that bottle up who maybe not familiar with American Single Malt and say, "Oh, okay, vanilla, toffee, oh, I get these things."
This is the most awesome.
5 years all together.
Yep. And this one from Fred Minnick's Ascot Awards, Best Single Malt Whiskey in America a few months ago. So
Wow.
we're proud of that one.
Yeah, that carries some weight.
Yeah. What was the proof on this one?
This one's exactly 100.
Okay.
Pour some from Matt off camera here. For those of you watching, Matt is my handler. Friend and colleague.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cheers.
So what I love about the Oloroso, all these finishes are going to be somewhat fruit forward, in my opinion. This one I think is probably, of the finishes we do, the wine finishes, I think is probably the most balanced. And for those of you who may not be familiar, Oloroso sherries, I'd say medium sweet. Would you say medium sweet?
Yeah,
sherry?
it's right there, right below Piac.
Yeah, not a sweet bomb. It's a nice nuttiness to it. And the way this all comes together, the fruitiness and the nuttiness and the dark chocolate and vanilla from the malt whiskey that we make, for me it almost comes together like a holiday fruit cake. It's kind of a simple description.
I just can't get over the colors. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like every single malt whiskey that I have.
Yeah, they're light. They're
it's
more
never
golden.
like that.
Well, so many of them are going to be used barrel.
Yep.
And one thing that this is an interesting thing in the category. One thing that we have yet to decide, agree upon. I think we're close to it. Is that in Scotland you can use caramel coloring, which makes sense, right? Because the used barrels, it's going to have a wide range of colors. So I get it. It doesn't change the flavor. You just want to make it consistent. I have no problem with that. Our group is category or soon-to-be category is trying to decide whether we'll allow that or not. Old Line, it doesn't matter. We get so much color from the oak. I think we lean towards allowing it because, hey, just because I don't need it doesn't mean somebody else
doesn't mean it. Yeah. I feel like if you see that on the bottle, though, it can turn people off.
Agree.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we're never going to have to do it.
So it's perfect for you guys, but yeah.
But so if they say no, we'll be totally fine. But that's an interesting thing. We're trying to decide, what if we want that to be something that we do as a category.
Did they finalize the age too? Because I know
No
Amanda
age.
had said that there was some back and forth on that.
Where it is now, no minimum age. Could be a day. Just like a bourbon could be a day. It could be a bad bourbon, but
Yep.
you could if you meet every other requirement. It's the same thing for us, which I think is good in Scotland, as you guys know. The listeners may or may not that it's got to be at least 3 years,
Yeah.
and then of course usually it's longer. So I like it because we started off using small barrels. We used even 5s and 10s, which gave us certainly good whiskey, but the bigger the barrel, the longer you go, the better you're going to get. So for us, if they said, hey, it's got to be a 53-gallon barrel, minimum 4 years or whatever, we'd be fine. But you wouldn't be fine if you wanted to start. And again, we want, we don't want to shut the spigot off. Like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Screw everybody else over behind us. We want people to be able to throw it in a small barrel, for a year or two, get their brand going and grow. So.
What's the angel share too? Of what Balcones has for an angel share
especially
in Texas,
Yeah.
as opposed to what Westland or Westwood has
It's
up in
wild.
the Pacific Northwest.
Well, I wonder if they're 50% or more. I don't know.
Yeah.
In total. For us, I think it's on average. I think we plan for 10% year one, and then like 3 to 4% every year thereafter. The interesting thing is whether it's a 5, a 10, which those are long in our past, but 5, 10, 30, or 53. We found that the total percentage, the total loss percentage-wise, is almost the same. So like, we would lose, in a
Really?
5-gallon barrel, we'd yield about 75-ish% after a year. So it happened a lot quicker.
Yeah.
10-gallon barrel, we're still, after 2 to 3 years, 53-gallon barrel, 4 to 6 years, we're kind of, the percentage at the end of the day is actually about the same.
That's interesting.
That is
Yeah.
interesting.
That's interesting. When you age your barrels, and I was just with Jeff Duckhorn from Redwood Empire
Yeah.
last night, and they age their barrels standing up.
We do, most of ours we do as well. Yeah, on pallets.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do they, for us, it's mostly operational, that it's functionally much easier for us to do. As we understand it, and we're still, obviously learning a lot as we go, that the big thing is having airflow on the barrels, whether they're on their side or on their end. If you can try to make room for airflow, you'll probably get a similar result either way. I don't know what Jeff thought. Or
For him, it was basically easy logistics because they deal with a lot of wine barrels too.
Sure.
And they said the barrels come in, they're awful,
Yeah.
like the splinters, and the metal is kind of
Yeah.
splintering, and it's easy to bring them in on pallets, top fill,
Yep.
cap them.
We do a
put
ton
the
of top
next
fills.
pallet
Yep.
on top. I asked him about flavor differences, and there's no real char on the barrel head.
Yeah.
Or not as much
Yeah,
char, so you're
exactly.
not losing as much. He said instantly when you top fill and it sinks into the bottom, you instantly have air at the top.
Yeah. Yep. It's a. How many? We have top. I say we probably 2/3 of ours are top fills, which I'm still not used to. Like, I still think of a barrel bone
Yeah.
being on the bilge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But functionally, it's great. Emptying them is easier if it's on the bilge. You put them in a big trough.
Yeah.
But not my problem.
No.
That's Arch's problem. Arch and Jerry can handle that one. Jerry's our distiller. Arch is my business partner. So that's 100 proof, and 100 proof for us.
Wow.
Isn't that a nice whiskey? Yeah.
That is unreal.
Just the fruit compote in there, like all that dark, like raisin, plum, nutty. Yeah.
It's a we love it. This is our 4th iteration. I'd say the first one went fine, like good. What we did on the first one that I know we learned from is that we didn't let the primary aging go, in our opinion, long enough. We took it out. It was maybe 2 years primary, and then we were in an OLO for about 2 years. It was a good whiskey, but the issue I have with it is that, so far you can probably tell, you line up our whiskeys, they're all in the same family, right? It's just, if you were to
There's a linear.
take somebody,
flavor profile.
people would know, okay, this is probably the same general family. That one, it was great, but that would have been one of these things is not like the other. It was much more herbal. And again, it was good. It just, we realized, okay, we don't want to have the finishes be, way off profile. We want them just to be a little nudge in a certain direction. So we've been doing primary longer. This is our 3rd, I think, 4th iteration, and this is hands down the best one we've done, I think, as far as the sherry. The Madeira, which we have here in a moment, this will be a little bit more, for lack of a better term, in your face, because A, it's barrel strength, this particular one. 100 proof, what we do is kind of a run home to mama. If we don't know what to do, 100 proof, you really can't go wrong, in my opinion. But this is a pick for one of our good accounts, and it's a really good one, so I wanted to bring it up. But the Madeira, I think, that comes across bolder. That's a little bit more of
Punch.
a little more of a Madeira punch.
Yeah.
I think the proof point is dead on that, because I think any less, the sweetness would overtake it.
I can see that.
And any more, if it was higher proof, you'd lose some of the sherry notes there.
Yes,
So I
agreed.
think
The
it's a
alcohol
perfect-
can outshout it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this one, as far as the proof, this is obviously it's a different whiskey, but we can see what we think here. I think to your point about the higher proof maybe outshouting the sherry, the Madeira is so bold. I think that kind of stands out a little better. And who is this for? Yeah, this is for our. We have a. If you ever come down to Baltimore, after the distillery is a place called Drug City Pharmacy, about a mile from our distillery, and they are awesome guys. And they did our first barrel pick ever as a company, and this is one of their picks they did recently, and it's a really good one. Those guys pick good barrels.
Ironic that there's a place called Drug City.
Drug City.
In the town that The Wire was filmed in.
It's called
Which
Drug
is the greatest show ever made.
I hands down agree. I've watched it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Drug City Pharmacy, and it is it's not in a very nice part of, it's in an okay part of town. But they have a great whiskey following. Yeah. So they do great picks. Yeah.
So what is it? I'm not really familiar with wine as much as
Sure.
Richard, so what is a Madeira? Kind of lean towards us?
It's a fortified dessert wine.
Okay.
Italian?
Well, it's actually, so it's owned by Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Portuguese territory.
Okay.
Marsala, I think it's Italian.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they, I'm with you. Like when it comes to the wines, I'm less familiar. But as far as Madeira, I think of it similar to a port in a lot of ways. So it's gonna be typically red wine based, fortified wine, like Rich said. So if anybody watching doesn't know fortified, this is my little history lesson, which I'll probably get 80% right and 20% wrong. Is that fortified wines are a throwback from before we had ways to preserve wine, like sulfates, whatever. Bringing the proof up in a wine would, to a higher alcohol content would help stabilize it. So Portugal, which is a big ocean-going country, would preserve their wine by, before it finished fermenting, dump a bunch of brandy in there, bring the proof up to 20%, and it would last longer.
Yep.
As a result, you had a very strong wine, but also a very sweet wine because the fermentation wasn't done yet, so the sugars were there.
Okay.
So then now you have sherry is a Spanish, typically white wine based fortified wine. So Madeira is in a very hot climate, and there's something about that intense. It's almost in near Africa. The intensity of the heat that I think causes a lot of oxidation, and whereas with port you might get a little more like fruity, jammy. This might be more like raisiny, oxidative kind of. Yeah.
Port's right up my alley too. So I mean, this is anything in the dessert wine category.
Oh
Perfect.
yeah. Although Madeira and port, I'm a Navy guy, so we used to drink good port, but any official event, like a formal dinner, there's port at the end of it, and you get a nasty hangover. But a good port or a good Madeira, I absolutely love.
It's almost sad because people don't drink Madeira as Madeira in this country.
Founding fathers used to drink a ton of it.
Yep.
Yeah. It was, I guess it was, rye whiskey and Madeira and whatever else was like the big, George Washington and that whole crew.
Applejack.
What's the one out of New Jersey that's been around forever?
Laird's.
Thank you.
I think they're the oldest distillery
I think they are.
in the country. And I did a podcast with them 6-8 months ago, and they found the letter from George Washington.
Did they really?
That he had written them to request
That's awesome.
the recipe for it. Yeah.
So New Jersey has Snooki, New Jersey Shore, and they also have the oldest distillery.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The situation.
The situation.
Goodness.
That
is like not like a dessert whiskey, but that was something I would drink after dinner.
Absolutely.
But again, I think the alcohol, because the Madeira is sweeter, that higher alcohol
Balance.
keeps it in balance because it doesn't drink its proof point.
No.
I never heard it said the way you did before on the Oloroso, that if that had been at barrel strength, I like it at barrel strength, but I think you're right that the Oloroso is probably just a little more delicate and probably does better at the slightly lower proof, lower being 100.
Yeah, that is
Wow,
fantastic.
just killer.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'll have to sneak a few things up here that aren't in market yet.
Yeah.
It's the fun
Create
part.
some buzz, and we'll get some people
Yeah.
Absolutely.
asking for it. And I know I've had people who have read about that.
Oh, is that right?
And,
Oh, beautiful. We'll make
yeah.
sure you get whatever it is. we
Yeah,
want.
Peter. Actually,
He's
my friend
salivating
Peter.
his mouth
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. When he comes up, is he bringing the sherry cask too?
Maybe we'll find a way. If we have a little bottle, we'll try to find a way to. Because I got to give that to my sales guy, but we'll try to. Peter, we'll find a way to leave a little sample for you.
I may have a few. Empty.
I'm trying to have something in my. I'm trying to have something in my car.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else to add?
No, I mean, first of all, thank you. And again, I really apologize for being late.
No.
For this. It was.
We were talking football and stuff.
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Don't
All right, well,
worry
thank
about
you,
it, man.
thank you.
We were putting some fillers in.
Yeah,
Got it.
it's good. This is the one chance a week we get to catch up. So.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I apologize to everybody, but thank you so much. No, this is. I'm really glad to have the opportunity.
Yep.
Anything I can do to help and get the word out, I would love to do it.
So this is already in the store now. This will be coming soon.
Yeah, it's available whenever you need it. Yep, that one. And this will be,
sherry.
and then the sherry will be. We hope it should be ready for you guys in November. It's already been shipped to Massachusetts.
Okay.
So, the distributor should have it in November.
Clear the system.
And this one, I think we'll probably try to get the Madeira up here sometime in Q1 or Q2 next year. So I'll let you guys know.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff to look forward to. But definitely, we'll close out with the signature.
Yes.
And,
I guess I gotta catch up.
all right, we are gonna wrap from there. shut that down.
Yeah.
Let you guys get back to. Man, it seems like just last week I could look out that window and see sunlight.
I was surprised it was dark. Yeah.
It's dark. It's happening now. So yeah, already on the shelf, on its way. Thank you guys, and cheers.